Welcome to Knitting Needles and Stems. I'm Carrie and I'm the host. Today we're going to talk about works in progress, finished projects, knit-alongs, and more out than in. And then we'll talk a little bit about my patterns and a little bit of gardening. So let's get started. So what's new this time is not really a lot. We've been going to school, going to work. We've been relatively healthy for the last couple weeks. Tax season is in full swing now. It's February 2nd today. My busiest month of the year is always January, and that's over, so that's good with all the payroll stuff being due and all of that. My husband was actually called for jury duty, sat in the courthouse for 2 hours, and then they canceled jury duty, so that was disappointing to have to sit there for 2 hours, but not disappointing the jury duty was canceled because neither one of us ever look forward to that. So that's about all that's new with us this time for this 2 weeks. Let's just move right on to works in progress. The first thing that I've been working on since the last time I recorded is the Fish Lips Kiss Heel socks by Sock Therapist. For this one, I am using Knit Picks Felici in the olive juice colorway. I'm making a pair for me, my husband. My husband is already done, and I'm making a pair for me and 2 of the kids to match his. And this is the color. You can see the maroon and the brown, the white, yellow, the lime green, the dark green, and then the colors repeat. And I'm using Knit Picks Felici in the olive juice. This is this color. But for the toes and heels, I'm using Knit Picks Stroll in Cranberry. And this is, again, the Fish Lips Kiss Heel by Socks Therapist. Right now, this one is for me. I'm working on the leg. I like to make my legs as long as my feet. And then I like to use the contrast color for the cuff. I have the feet done on mine and my oldest child's pair, and all I have left is the legs for both of those. And my oldest child would like the socks to be as long as possible, so that's why I'm making all the feet first and all the heels, and then I can do the legs as long as they can be for those. So again, that's the Fish Lips Kiss Heel socks, and the Fish Lips Kiss Heel is by Socks Therapist, and the yarn is Knit Picks Felici in the olive juice colorway. The next thing I've been working on is my Rustic Dream sweater by Ladianna Henderson. This is a color work yoke sweater. You work the color work in the round in the yoke, and then the sleeves and the body of the sweater are all in a solid color. So right now I've separated my sleeves. It's the back. I've separated the sleeves, and I'm just working on the body. I gotta do straight stockinette stitch until the body measures 15.5 inches. So I still have quite a ways to go. But you can see the beautiful color work here. It's based on a painting that she really loved when she was traveling. The colors are pretty close to the colors that she chose. For a full list of colors, just look in the show notes. Everything will be there. Again, that's the Rustic Dreams sweater by Ladianna Henderson. The next thing that I've been working on is the Mira River Wrap by Tammy Canavan Soldat. I started this one in March of 2024, March 5th of 2024. It was one of the Project a Month knit along projects. And I'm using mystery yarn. I had this big giant cone of mystery yarn. I thought it was lace weight, but I think it's more of a cobweb weight. And it's a nice brown color, and it has little spots of reds and greens in there. And the beads that I'm using are from Fire Mountain Gems. These are just little seed beads. You can see the pretty pattern on there. It's not very long. I've been working on it for over a year. with this cobweb white yarn. It doesn't grow very fast. So, but I'm gonna probably make it as long as I can with the beads that I have. So I'll use up all the beads, see how long it is, and then assess what I'm actually gonna do with it. Again, that's the Mira River Wrap by Tammy Canavan Soldat. I started it in on March 5th of 2024. Next, I have my corner to corner blanket. The corner to corner blanket is a pattern by Sammy Bristow. It's meant to be a blanket that is knit from one corner to the other corner using all the same weight yarn. Well, I decided that I was going to make mine out of scraps. I like to have a way to use up scraps as I finish projects if I decide that there's not enough left to make another project with. So this is the corner to corner blanket by Sammy Bristow, and for it I'm using just random scraps in all weights and all colors. You can see it has all, literally probably just about every color you could possibly imagine. The only weight that I won't use anymore is lace weight, because I had some lace weight in there and it ended up getting pulled too hard and holes ended up being in it. So I had to rip back to where the lace weight was and take all that out and then just start over from there again. So again, this is the corner to corner blanket by Sammy Bristow. This one was started on March 19th in 2022. I've been collecting my scraps since then, and I have a bag that has my scraps in it for this blanket. So I just grab, when I'm finished with one little bit of leftover yarn, I just reach in the bag randomly and grab another one and connect it. I've been using mostly the braided join, but sometimes I'll use the Russian join, and some of the ends, depending on what kind of yarn it is, it's not good for the braided join or the Russian join, so I will just weave those ends in when I get there. The next thing that I've been working on is Hand Span by Jenny Stayman. I started these on January 19th of this year, and I'm making them with the leftover yarn from my 2024 Woolens and Nosh Targhee sock kit. This is a glove pattern that is supposed to be so that you don't have to knit a bunch of little tubes and have all those ends to weave in after you're done making the gloves. I haven't made it that far yet to know how the fingers magically happen, but this is what I have so far. This is just the one hand. I started these on the needles that were suggested in the pattern, and with my gauge it was going to be way too tight and not go over my arm. So I restarted them, and now I am using US 4 needles, and this is a fingering weight, the Woolens and Nosh Targhee sock. Again, this is Hand Span by Jenny Stayman. Started on January 19th of this year. That was when we were having the really cold spell. Our temperatures were actually down to negative 26 or 27 as the actual temperature, and then you add the wind chills on top of that, and it was really, really pretty cold. The next thing that I've been working on is the Emotional Support Chicken by Annette Corsino, and I'm making this with the kit that I got from the Knitting Tree LA, and that is a place in California, a yarn shop in California where this pattern originated. The kit comes in this cute little bag. It looks like a bucket of fried chicken or a bag of fried chicken. The one that I'm making is called Chicola's Cage, and so far I am done knitting all of the pieces. No, all but the bottom. The bottom section I have not finished. And I have the wattle and the comb on there. They come with everything that you need for the chicken. The eyes are included, stitch markers, a tapestry needle to sew everything in. The only thing that it doesn't come with that you'll need is a pair of scissors and the knitting needles. So this is the Emotional Support Chicken by Annette Corsino. And this is the fun bag that it comes in. You can see it has some nutrition facts on the back. It's so cute. I mean, this is every time I pick this up, everybody in the family looks to see what I'm grabbing to eat because it looks and sounds like it should have food in it and not yarn. So that is just one of the coolest things. Emotional Support Chicken by Annette Corsino. The next thing, the last thing that I've been working on is my Day's End by Judy Gibson. This is counted cross stitch. So here it is. I have it out of the loop, the hoop right now because I wanted you to be able to see the full picture. There's one spot where I figured out that I miscounted for some of the rocks that are at the bottom. I don't have enough spaces for the cross stitches that are supposed to be there. So what I decided to do is work my way all the way. I'm going to go all the way around the outside perimeter and then work on filling it in and decide what I should do about that spot when I get there. Again, that's the Day's End counted cross stitch by Judy Gibson. Now, let's move on to finished objects. The first thing that I finished, I started it on January 11th this year, and I finished it on January 18th. It was one of the Saturday social projects in the Knitting in the Loft group. It was the Mosaic Trivet by Jennifer Hogue. You can see here I used Knit Picks Comfy Fingering and Planetarium, and what I think is Knit Picks Cotton and Honey. The two colors look really great together. It's a cute little trivet pattern. You may notice that there's a big giant red spot here. I washed it, and while it was laying out blocking, when I went back to it the next day to pick it up to see if it was dry, there was a giant red spot here, and someone had cut it. Now, I don't know what compelled my 13-year-old to cut something that I had sitting to dry, but she did. And so far, I've had it just sitting on my table, and I'm using it as a coaster, and it hasn't frayed anymore. I'm considering maybe take my sewing machine and put some stitches in there just so it'll hold up so I can wash it and wash that red out of it and just using it as a coaster because that's what I'm going to use it for anyway. So again, that's the Mosaic Trivet by Jennifer Hogue using Knit Picks Comfy Fingering and Planetarium and what I think is Knit Picks Cotton and Honey. The next thing that I finished, I don't have here with me. It's the Nudo Headband by January plus July. This was for the Project a Month Knit Along group that I'm in. It was our project for January of 2025. You can see here, I gave it to my daughter. She really loves it. She can wear alpaca, and it was made out of 100% alpaca. So it should help keep her ears super warm this winter. The alpaca that I made it out of is actually from a local farm here in Hayward, Joyful Journey Alpacas here in northern Wisconsin. It's a really great place. If you ever get up to northern Wisconsin, just look them up. They do farm tours. They have a cute little farm store that you can go in and shop. You can buy yarn, you can buy alpaca socks and clothes and toys. I mean, you name it, and she's probably got it there, all alpaca themed. Again, that's the Nudo Headband by January plus July. This one was started on January 7th of this year, and I finished it on January 21st of this year. The next thing that I've finished is my Mother Bear for January of 2025. The theme for this month was warm and woolly bears, and the names that I'm coming up with for my bears this year are people in my office. And when I heard this theme, the first name in my office that I thought of was Denise. She's a receptionist and she does bookkeeping and payrolls too, but she's always cold, so I thought it would be perfect for her. So this is my Denise bear for January 2025 Mother Bear Project. She has on her nice hat, her scarf, her mittens, and her boots, because I mean it's cold, and when it was really cold, when we had that cold snap up here, she was even wearing heated mittens. So this is a perfect theme for her. Again, that's the Mother Bear Project, and this is the January bear for the Ravelry group that I'm in, and the theme was warm and woolly bears. The next thing that I finished was my Advent socks, which I actually forgot to share with you guys last time I recorded. I finished these before the last time I recorded, but I put them on. I put them on and started wearing them and forgot all about talking about them. So this was the kit from Woolens and Nosh, the 2024 Advent kit, where there was a stripe of color, a different color for all of the 24 days of the Advent. So it started here, and then there are 24 stripes going all the way down. It came with a contrasting color for the heels, toes, and cuffs. And for this one, I also used the Fish Lips Kiss heel. It just works really great for all my patterns. It fits my foot really good. Patty Joy White, the socks therapist, has a great tutorial on how to make a foot form or a foot outline so that your socks will all fit you perfectly with this heel. It's nice and snug. There are separate instructions for how to make a mini gusset. If you have a high instep, that might be an option for you. Again, that's the Woolens and Nosh. This is just a plain vanilla sock with the Fish Lips Kiss heel and the Woolens and Nosh 2024 Advent colorway. Another pair of socks that I finished is one of the Olive Juice socks, the pairs of Olive Juice socks. These are for my youngest. For this one, I used a broken rib pattern. You knit 2, purl 1 on one row, and then you knit straight across on the next row. The colors were going to match perfectly, but the yarn, this is Knit Picks Felici in the Olive Juice colorway. The yarn decided that it was going to switch colors on me right around here, and then the sequence completely reversed, which is fine. My 13-year-old does not mind if her socks do not match. I'm sure all of your kids don't mind either, because that seems to be the way that kids want it these days. I also used the Fish Lips Kiss heel for these. It's one of my favorite heels, and she wanted little short socks, so they're short socks. Not really a pattern, just the Fish Lips Kiss heel pattern and a broken rib, two by one on one round, and then knit all of the next round. Again, these are the Olive Juice socks in the Knit Picks Felici Olive Juice colorway. The next thing I finished is a little gnome. Sarah Shira has these great gnome patterns. This pattern is No Fun Like Gnome Fun by Sarah Shira. And there are 3 little tiny gnomes in this pattern. This one is the biggest of the 3. This is Noah. Our local art studio called Art Beat here in Hayward, Wisconsin they have an art show every year that anybody can enter. So they send out an email with the theme, and this year's theme is lime green. So he has his little lime green hat. My plan is to make him part of a gnomescape. I'm going to make another gnome, and at least one other gnome, and possibly a mushroom to put all together in this little landscape to submit as my submission to this art project. So this is No Fun Like Gnome Fun by Sarah Shira. The next thing that I finished is the Kitty Love Washcloth by Cheryl Lacey. This is part of the Saturday Social in the Knitting in the Loft group. This one is just a little washcloth with a cat with a heart on the cat. For this one I used Knit Picks Dishy and the Verdigris colorway. And I subtracted some of the stitches from the sides because I didn't want a gigantic washcloth. So I subtracted 7 stitches from these plain knit stitches on each side. Otherwise, it would have been a couple of inches bigger than it is. So I think it turned out to be the perfect size for us to use for dishes in the house. Again, that is the Kitty Love Washcloth by Cheryl Lacey. And the last thing that I finished is also a Saturday Social in the Knitting in the Loft group project. And this is the Denim Frost Snowflake by Deborah Atkinson. This is my snowflake. I decided to use yellow. I'm using up all of the crochet thread that was given to me by my friend when her aunt passed away and left it. They were trying to find out what to do with all the stuff that she had. I used up all of the white and now I am on to different colors. I think that yellow was a perfect color for this one because it kind of looks like a flower and not a snowflake, although I will send it out as a snowflake when that time comes. Again, that's the Denim Frost Snowflake by Deborah Atkinson. Now, let's move on to knit-alongs. In the Unraveling podcast group on Ravelry, they are hosting a knit-along for the Patty Lyons Knitting Bag of Tricks book and the Patty Lyons Knitting Bag of Tricks workbook. They go hand in hand. One, you buy both and you work through both, and it teaches you about your knitting. So this is the workbook. And then we have the book here by Patty Lyons. I've completed the whole first chapter. We've moved on to the second chapter in the Unraveling podcast group. So we're opening to discussion on the second chapter. I've completed my swatch for the second chapter. Or not the whole swatch. This is the first section of the second chapter, the measuring cup. I'm using Wool of the Andes worsted in the Caution colorway for this swatch. For my first swatch, I used Knit Picks palette. It was very informative. You make these swatches, and she talks about how if you do it one way, you're not getting this chapter is all about gauge, and she talks about why our gauge never works for us. Why it seems like even though we check our gauge, our items don't turn out to be the size that we want them to be. It's mostly because of the way that we swatch. I'm notorious for making the tiniest little swatch that I can to try to get the most information that I can, and that's just not the way that you should do it. So you should definitely, if you want to make yourself a better knitter and learn about your knitting, even if you think that you are a great knitter, this is a great book to help you learn more about your knitting. Again, that's the Patty Lyons Bag of Tricks book and the workbook that goes along with it. And we are doing the knit along in the Unraveling podcast group on Ravelry. The next knit along that I'd like to talk about is in the Project a Month Cowl group, knit along group. We are doing a knit along. We do a free pattern every month. We pick a free pattern from Ravelry and we do a knit along to that pattern every month. And with Valentine's Day being this month, we have chosen the pattern I'd Love Some Coffee, and it's a cute little coffee cozy with a heart on it. You can make it with any fingering weight yarn you have. The sample is actually made with a variegated yarn. I haven't started mine yet, but I plan on starting it on Tuesday. Tuesday is the day when I work on my Project a Month knit along projects. So that's the Project a Month knit along group on Ravelry, and the pattern is I'd Love Some Coffee by Thaddeus Nelson. The next knit along is in the Yarniacs podcast. This is the self-indulgent knit along. For this one, I'm making the Rustic Dream sweater that I told you about earlier. That one, I bought the yarn for that one in 2019 on my trip to Chicago. So it feels really self-indulgent to finally cast it on and be working on that sweater. And again, that's in the Yarniacs podcast group on Ravelry. It's the self-indulgent knit along. And you can knit, or you can weave, or you can crochet, or do whatever it is, whatever craft it is that you like for that knit along. Now let's move on to more out than in. For this month, I actually brought more yarn in that I sent out because I was gifted a skein of Biscotti Bissock in red, white, and blue colors. They're self-striping, red, white, and blue. I have kind of a goal to make yarns for every holiday, or socks for every holiday. So I'll have for Valentine's Day, for Christmas, for 4th of July, for Easter, and these will be perfect for 4th of July socks. But because of that, I brought in 435 yards, and with only a couple of low yardage projects being sent out last month, I only sent out a total of 88 yards. So for the beginning of the year, the very first month of the year, I have an increase of 347 yards in my stash. I don't have any plans to buy any yarn. I am going on a knitting retreat in June, and I will most likely be going to Wisconsin Sheep and Wool in September. So who knows what will happen then. But that gives me plenty of time to finish some projects, use up some stash, send out some yardages before I possibly bring in more. All right, let's move on to my pattern. I'm still working on my Mystery Critter, Spring Critter pattern. I'm hoping that this pattern will be available for purchase by April 1st. That's always my goal for every year. This is the 5th year that I've done the Mystery Critter pattern. I do it in both knit and crochet for the same animal, and I don't tell what the animal is going to be or how big it's going to be, I just tell what kind of yarn, what colors would work, what needles, and what techniques you possibly need to know. So if you're interested, we do a knit along. Well, it's called a make along because it's crochet and knit. We do a make along, and there are always prizes that are given away at the end of the make along. So that will be my Mystery Spring Critter pattern for 2025 coming up in April. And the knit along always starts on April 15th on Tax Day, because that's one of my busiest days of the year, and that is my way to celebrate the end of the busy tax season. Next, let's talk about gardening. Today I want to talk about repotting the propagated succulents. If you remember on the first episode, I talked about how easy it was to propagate the succulents. You just take off the leaf and these nice little babies will start growing. Well, now they're big enough where I can start putting them into their individual pots, because I plan on giving them to the teachers at the end of the year as an end of the year gift. So I have 12 of these little succulent pots. They are just little cute porcelain pots. I've already got some dirt in here. This is Miracle Grow cactus and succulent soil. So make sure that if you're working with succulents and cactuses, you have the right kind of soil. It has to be fast draining. They do not like to sit in their water. So just make sure that you're using the right kind of soil when you're planting succulents and cactuses. So in order to plant them, what I do is I pick up the entire leaf that's all dried up from the mother, and it has the little babies here, and you can see these nice roots. You make a hole in your dirt and make sure the roots go down into that hole, and you can cover the leaf from the mother, and then what you have left is just your little plant in there. So that is how I plant my propagated succulents. I like to do it when they're little. The roots are well established. As you can see, the roots were even longer than the actual plant itself. But I like to put them in individual pots, and I will water it as soon as I'm done recording to make sure that the roots are established in there and that they get the nutrients that they need after being moved from where they were. So that's propagating, well, that's replanting of the propagated succulents. These have been growing for about 6 months. I cut the leaves off of don't cut them. I twisted the leaves off of the mothers about 6 months ago and set them on the dirt and just misted them probably about every other week to give them water, and that encourages the roots to grow. And that's all I have for this episode. So until next time, just keep on doing what you love, and I'll see you next time. Bye.